a reaction, first of all, to these increased fines or proposed increased fines from €500 to 2,000?
Good afternoon, Cormac, and I'm not wearing a tie for this interview. I hope that doesn't disappoint Louis Copeland. I don't think it'll have much impact, not because people will be not defrayed by the fine, the 2,000, but that there are very, very few people that it will apply to. I found obviously an awful lot of what's happened in international travel has been the toing and froing on data. But I do find the figures for people returning from holiday sound enormously high. For instance, if you look at your departure board for tomorrow from Dublin Airport, not one of the flights is from a tourist destination. So I think it's February. People aren't going on holidays. Even at this time of the year, there would be a small number travelling. And I feel that the Lanzarote narrative we've had over the last week created a situation where people called for higher fines. It was delivered in the Dáil. If it is applying to somebody, and they are gaming on 500 not being enough. The only reason I would say that's the case is that if you have booked, and remember some of these people have booked their holiday way in advance, and some of them have carried their holiday forward from probably March or April last year, that they will lose all their money when they don't travel.
But some people, we heard it on Liveline.
Downside.
We heard it on Liveline, you probably heard yourself, people on holidays in Tenerife or wherever the case it may be, who took the chance and went on their holiday and felt they were safer there than were here. But they obviously felt that the €500 wasn't a disincentive. Can you tell us, or can you give us any indication as to how many flights are coming into Ireland, into Dublin Airport especially then at the moment?
Tomorrow we will have about 20. It would have been about 80 over the Christmas peak, down to around 40 in January. And it will go a little bit up at the weekend. They tend to be the hub areas like Heathrow, Frankfurt, Amsterdam. We've 2 or 3 Middle East, not daily from the Middle East. And we've a couple coming in from North America daily. They're pretty important in terms of transfer traffic going on to the rest of Europe. And that's become an issue, obviously, at the weekend. But they are also a trend that is very noticeable is that for instance, Turkish Airlines route from Istanbul has moved from narrow body to wide body. No reason to do that because the number of passengers is minuscule, but cargo is increasingly what's paying for those, particularly those long haul flights from North America and from the Middle East.
And do we know anything about seat occupancy then? What are they? They're nowhere near capacity wherever the flights are coming into from. So do we know anything about how many seats are taken up on these flights?
The airport estimate is 20 to 40%. It's very interesting you should raise that because Ryanair assiduously published their load factor. In the good year, they used to have the highest load factors in the business. They haven't been doing so. So that suggests that load factor right across the board, even at the guys who are good at it, like Ryanair, has come down. The way it works, Cormac, is that if a low-cost airline has 2 or 3 flights to the same destination, they will reduce the number of flights to bring their load factor up. But we probably have hit subsystems level at that. To give you an example, the only place people really go on holidays in February is the Canary Islands. We will have we're down to 1 airline on the Canary Islands, and that's Ryanair, and there are 2 weekly flights to Tenerife where it used to be 2 daily, and 2 weekly to Lanzarote where it used to be daily, 1 weekly to Gran Canaria, and they're coming down as of next week because nobody, the price, if you can travel, the price is going to be great. But the reality is nobody's actually booking for those places because of the measures, and the people who have deferred their holiday forward are probably all going to lose their money on doing so. The other important factor, and it did show up in those radio broadcasts that you talked about, is a lot of people, when it came to September, October, our numbers were much lower, and the Canary Islands had one of the lowest in Europe, just decided to winter out there. People who could work from home and people who can retire. Normally we would get up to 80,000, in a good year, we'd have up to 80,000 Irish wintering out in Spain. It could have been much higher this year. We don't have great data. I'm surprised, Cormac, that the level of data that's being produced by some of the politicians, because we've never had less data to work from. It's what I do for a living is collect data from airports, airlines, all of that. And we don't have the people doing the passenger surveys in Dublin Airport anymore because of COVID.
Well, they seem to have data
a lot of guesswork
from
on secondary airports, things like that.
Somewhere, Eoghan, and we'll talk to Minister for Tourism, among other things, Catherine Martin, about this a little bit after 5 o'clock. But for the moment, editor of Air and Travel magazine, The Tile is Eoghan Corry. Thank you very much.